Casual Magic has been sponsored by Quiver, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine deck holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their website for 10% off your order. We're also sponsored by Architect, the premier site for hosting your decks on the internet. I love them and they love me, and it seems like a good reason for you to use them. You can also support Casual Magic directly by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/ShivamB. And now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect and Quiver and my patrons at patreon.com/ShivamB. Today, I'm very, very excited to bring you a conversation I've been trying to have for like a year and a half or something with Hall of Famer Frank Karsten, one of the greatest mathematical minds in all of Magic, one of like the god tier statistician that we have, and also, I don't know, on coverage all the time, and just probably a better Magic player than most of us, especially now that Mox Opal is unbanned and you can play Affinity again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm super excited because I've wanted to talk to you for a very long time because you are one of the most interesting people in the scene for me, because Magic is a deeply, deeply mathematical game, right? Like, obviously I don't need to tell you that, but like, it's for a game that's so full of numbers and stats and like, you know, probabilities and things. It's a wonder that we don't have more people like you who can explain this stuff, because I'm an English major. I was a language major. I studied multiple languages and things. I'm not a mathematician, and stats was one of my worst subjects. So reading all of your articles over the years, and you've written so many articles, reading all of your articles about things like land and like number of lands and how to calculate the probability of what cards you're going to draw in your opening hand is just like, it has improved my game 1,000%. And it changed the way I think about Magic. And I think that your contribution to the game is, I mean, I would say, like, if you weren't already in the Hall of Fame, you should probably be in the Hall of Fame. So I'm super stoked to talk to you, man. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Thank you for those kind words. Doing okay. And happy to bring more math analysis to 2025.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Happy New Year to you. And this is the first show I think I'm recording in the brand new year. So that's really cool. Even though it's not going to go up till like February. So I need to ask you a couple questions, because I've talked to a bunch of Dutch players now, and it is kind of crazy to me how many incredibly good players there are in the Netherlands, especially given like that you guys have to import Magic from Germany or get it in languages that are not your own. Where did you find Magic? When did you find Magic?
Well, I started with Magic when I was around 13. So I have been playing the game for, around like 27 years now, which is way over half my life.
Yeah, isn't it crazy?
Like a friend from high school played it, and we were both very much into games at the time. So I picked it up, and never looked back. That was Tempest, I think, and we always played Magic in English. My native language is Dutch, but most people in the Netherlands speak English quite well, and
yes.
I will say that playing and learning Magic, reading about the game, did also improve my my English skills as a teenager. So it does everything.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed being in your country for MagicCon Amsterdam this earlier last year. I guess last year now. It was awesome, man. I love eating cheese a lot, and I love bread, and the Netherlands has some of the best bread and cheese I've had, and so it was super cool. But I was also stunned at how English friendly it was.
Yeah, we sometimes get some flack for our typical lunches, which is like
brown bread and cheese.
A dry piece of bread and a slice of cheese, and that's it. But we definitely have a great Magic history, and being able to host big events like MagicCon Amsterdam. Soon, in a couple months, there will be the Spotlight series in Utrecht. Will always be a great time.
Yeah, I mean, and because I had a conversation with, I'm going to butcher his name, Gijs, Uh,
Gijsbert
Gijsbert,
Hogendijk.
yeah, who's
He's
literally
yeah,
one of the most interesting storytellers I've ever met. And
a
he was
legend.
telling, yeah, he's like so cool. He's also like 12 feet tall, and it's just like I don't. He's like, yeah, I have to be able to see you over the dikes. I'm like, okay, your Dutch humor is too much for me.
Yeah,
But
I'm below average height for a Dutch person for sure.
yeah, you're like a normal sized human. I was not expecting when I went to Amsterdam that I was going to be looking up so much, but it is absurd how tall you people
Yeah.
are. But yeah, he is like, also his name is the most Dutch name I've ever seen in my life. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you guys have had nationals and tournaments and pro tours since the dawn of Magic, which must be great for like, I don't know, having a community or something like that.
For sure. Even in the early years of Magic, or well, at least like the early 2000s, there always were, at least at the Pro Tour, a lot of Dutch players qualified. So even the local drafts, because our country is not all that large, were often super high quality, like sometimes even better than the average Pro Tour table, and yeah, because we often just collaborated with everyone who went to the Pro Tour from the Netherlands. It fostered a community of high level play, and yeah, as Gies would also certainly say, a lot of high level judges as well.
Yeah. And so I don't want to go in too far into your country, but like, did you ever get a chance to like, did you play in Germany at all? Because I know it's like next door and you've got all those amazing players in like the cities really close by. I know like Kai lives very close to the border of the Netherlands, for instance.
Yes, I think he was in Cologne.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I've played games in like almost every European country, I would say, over the years, especially with the Grand Prix circuit.
Oh, right.
There were just tournaments all over the place, and I really enjoyed not just the competition, but also the ability to see the whole world and travel to places that I otherwise might not have gone to. And yeah, Magic has allowed me for that. I'm really blessed.
Dude, Amsterdam was my first time going out of this country for Magic. I've traveled around the world multiple times before that, but I'd never gone out for Magic before. And it's wild because I remember the first day that I walked into the hall. I'd been in the country for like 3 days, and I was being shown around by Danny and everything. I walk into the hall and a dude sees me and he's like, "Oh my God, are you Shivam?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am. Hi, it's nice to meet you." And he's like, "Hi, I'm from Estonia." And I'm like, "Estonia? Like, that's hella far away. Like, why do you know who I am in Estonia? Do they play Magic in Estonia?" He's like, "This is Europe. It's not that far from here." And I'm like,
yeah.
And he's like, "And we have the internet." And I was like, "Oh, right, you do."
It truly is a global game, and it is an awesome way to connect people from all over.
Oh, it's
even if you might not speak each other's native language perfectly, we all speak the language of Magic.
Yeah. Actually,
awesome.
Can I ask you about that? Because I know you've like played on many pro tours and you've tested with a lot of people. What is it like trying to play Magic with someone, say or like practice with someone from like Japan or China or like, I don't know, even Slovakia, where they might not speak a shared language with you?
Basically, everyone just speaks English. Sometimes there is, like sometimes there is a little bit of a language barrier, but then you navigate it in the best way possible.
Yeah.
And yeah, with English and like a shared knowledge of the game, it is always possible to work together.
Yeah, you can always just hold the terror in your hand and point to the Shivan dragon and say, like, "I'm killing that thing," and they're like, "Okay, I guess."
I've even played like a tournament in Japan, a pre-release in Japan once, where all the cards were in Japanese, but then by using like Google Lens to quickly translate things, yeah, you could just like play all the games quite well. It works out.
That's so cool. Like I can read Japanese pretty well. I lived in Japan for a few years, and I can read and speak it. But when you look at a Magic card, there's a lot of technical language on there sometimes, or like Magic-specific vocabulary, and they don't teach you that in college. So I'm like, one of my, I don't know, I'm not going to repeat my stories. People get mad at me because I keep repeating the same stories I have, but they're fun stories. Like when I came back to Magic in 2011, I was living in San Francisco. I still live here, and I went to Worlds, which was here in town, and I was unemployed at the time because PlayStation had just let me go. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to go hang out. And they were like drafts for $5. I'm like, holy crap, I'm never going to find a $5 draft of Innistrad or whatever it was. And I sat down, and you know who's drafting at Worlds on Wednesday? It turns out it's just all the Worlds teams guys who aren't playing in whatever tournament. And I was just getting thrashed and I was sitting down at tables I remember I sat down with Team Japan, and I'm chatting with them. And then they're like, please stop. We'll talk in English because you don't know how to talk in Magic in Japanese. I'm so sorry. That's good.
So sometimes that's easier in the end.
Yeah, but it was really cool. Like Shuhei Nakamura was one of my opponents, and he got up mid game and he's like, "I'm sorry, I have to leave." I'm like, "Oh, is there something wrong?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm getting my Hall of Fame ring," and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
A valid excuse.
I'm like, that's reasonable and fair. Good game to you, sir.
Yep. Shuhei, like me, has also traveled all over the world for Magic. And that is sometimes the fun part, where you play a pro tour, play a match, say against Shuhei, and then 1 week later you see each other again at, I don't know, back then there was like the Grand Prix circuit, let's say Grand Prix in Singapore, and have lunch together there with like a couple people from different European countries, from Japan, and
God, it's like, it's wild to me how, like, in America, for me to go from the West Coast to the East Coast is like a 6-hour flight, and so I don't go to a lot of the East Coast events. But trying to imagine when the Grand Prix circuit was like mostly in the States, and you guys having to fly across the ocean to get here to play for a weekend, and then pick up and fly the next week to the other side of the world to go to Grand Prix Manila or whatever. It's like, this is insane to me. Like, thinking about what grinders had to do in like the mid 2000s seems really unrealistic now.
Yeah, we don't have that many events anymore.
Yeah,
maybe that's also for the better, to have like a better balance. But still, the ability to travel and then tack on some days to see awesome places. I still love that. I mean, you got to see the Netherlands for
it was so cool. Yeah. One of the things I've learned from the years of traveling I've done, because I normally travel for religious events, my guru goes around the world and gives like lecture series. And I was like, if we're going to be in this state or country or whatever it is, tack on a weekend or something before or after the event and just see the place you are. Because I always feel bad when I listen to like the grinders talk. Is like, yeah, I know every convention center from Indianapolis to Utrecht. And I'm like, yeah, but have you seen any of those cities? Like, no, only the taxi ride to the airport. I'm like, that's a miserable way to live, man. You're going around the world, see the world.
I fully agree. I mean, when I was very young and started playing the Pro Tours, I indeed only saw the hotel in the convention center. But soon after, I also realized, like, hey, actually, the world is an awesome place. I should, tack on a couple days here and there. Even recently, at like MagicCon Vegas, after the tournament, for example, I explored a bunch of national parks in the neighborhood together with Brent Vos, another Dutch player, and
did you go to Yosemite?
Not Yosemite. We went to like Zion and Bryce, and
I mean, those are amazing places too. So
yeah, really beautiful. That Magic has allowed that. Besides, the game and everything it brought me is awesome.
So God, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, because like, you're such an interesting person. Like, how did you get? I mean, obviously, you went to college. You did your statistics degree. Do you have a PhD or?
I have a PhD in like the math of probability theory and game theory.
Yeah, didn't you do your thesis on like Magic or related to Magic?
It was not on Magic or even even really related to it. I think I added a couple Magic related examples I snuck into my thesis, but largely it was on like the interface of stochastic operations research and cooperative game theory, and like developing new models and proving new theorems. Which has no immediate bearing on Magic, I'm afraid.
I find that a lot of high-level math has no immediate bearing on anything but other high-level math.
That's fair.
It's fine. It's cool because, like, it's just sometimes it floats over my head. But I remember when you were nominated for the Hall of Fame, one of the reasons that they put you in there is not only because of how good of a player you are, because you're obviously a very, very good player, but also because of what you've done for the community of the Dutch people playing Magic, and also just bringing this knowledge to us in, the rest of the world who don't really understand how to do this mathematical probability stuff. I'm curious, how did you start? How did you bring these two ideas together of like, you know, your love of math and the work you did in school and college and this game that you play all the time? Or do you like Magic because of the math?
It's a little bit of both, perhaps, in the sense that I always had a penchant for some numerical analysis and was able to find opportunities for that within Magic to apply it. And at the same time, because I also wanted to, because I had all this competitive experience in Magic, and I wanted to learn more, it encouraged me to continue my studies in those areas and learn some new things that could help me understand games even better.
That's
So
awesome.
it influenced each other and supported each other in that sense.
Yeah, because obviously Magic being made by a math like PhD himself is like probably a big part of why it's such a robust game. But one thing I'm curious, how do you like? Okay, I need to ask you this in this. This is going to be a very stupid question, and I apologize in advance. But when you're looking at like math, when you're looking at Magic from like a mathematical standpoint of like, for instance, you write articles like how many lands should you run in a commander deck, and I remember that caused a lot of controversy because commander players hate putting lands in their decks, and like it feels like it's very basic for you to sit there and say like, look, you've got 60 to 100 cards in your deck. This is the percentage of lands you run or whatever. But how do you come up with what that baseline is? Like, how do you know how many lands a deck should run? Like, we have the formula for limited 17 and 23, right? But no other format in Magic has that kind of cut and dry formula. How do you like a burn deck is going to need less lands than say a control deck might. How do you do this? How do you even start conceptualizing this?
Well, there are various ways. One is indeed to start with some, say, rules from limited or 60 card constructed, and then, well, if you have 17 and 40, well, just go 17 times 99 divided by 40, and you get like an equivalent amount for commander that gives like a
I
first
never thought of
idea.
doing that.
Or if you have like 25 lands in a 60 card deck, we'll do 25 times 99 divided by 60, and again you get a roughly similar number. It depends a bit on the exact number that you start with 60 cards. But I also ran some like idealized simulation models where, again, it always depends on the exact commander deck that you have, but
Well, yeah.
As a general rule, I would suggest aiming for around like 38 to 39 lands plus, say, roughly 8 mana rocks or ram spells or mana producing creatures, so cards like Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Birds of
Yeah.
Paradise, Rampant Growth, and that sort of guideline, right? The 38 to 39 lands and 8 additional sources of mana. It actually matches many of the pre-constructed decks released by Wizards in 2024, and also matched that like idealized simulation model. Because if you just take those numbers from limited or 60 card constructed and translate that to 99, you get to numbers that are perhaps a bit too high. Because
yeah, like I just did that example you told me of 60 times 99 or whatever, and it gave me 41.25. And I'm like, 41 lands feels like way too many for an EDH deck.
I mean, it could actually be perfectly fine if you have a deck with not a lot of mana rocks or ram spells, or perhaps
obviously it's commander
not
dependent.
the most mana hungry strategy. But most decks do have so many additional sources of mana in commander that shaving a few is fine. But I do believe many commander decks just run too few lands. Like if you
That
run
is one of the
36 lands or even fewer, like
32 lands.
yeah, like unless you're playing like CEDH with like a ton of rituals or like really know what you're doing, I would say it's just overly risky. And
the problem
especially
is the problem is commander players are emotional and
yeah.
and greedy, and so they want to play all the cool cards to synergize with their commander, and they're like, oh, I can cut a land and put in this extra thing, I can cut a land and put in, and then you've got like 12 lands in your deck, and it's like, why doesn't anything work? It's like, come on, idiot. Like, but I
it,
mean,
it is really difficult, yeah,
yeah,
to cut actual spells when all of them you put in for a reason. But
yeah,
still, you need to ensure that your strategy actually runs smoothly. And like nowadays, we also have so many like quality creature lands and cycling lands
yeah.
and channel lands and other utility lands, modal double face cards. Like
Hmm.
we've been given so many fantastic tools to
Okay,
support higher land
I need to
counts.
stop you because I have a very specific question. Modal double face lands are very complicated. Like they look very simple, but they're very complicated to do the actual math of. When you're building a deck, and I run into this problem in limited and in 60 card a lot. How do you count a modal double face land? Do you count it as a land or do you count it as a spell?
A little bit of both. As to say it very very easily, you can count it as like half spell, half land,
Hmm.
and the exact distribution depends a bit on what kind of MDFC it is. Do you plan to play it as a spell quite often, or is it like the type of MDFC that can enter the battlefield untapped and that is mainly going to be a land that sometimes turns into a spell when you're flooded? In that
Hmm.
case, you can count it as more of a land.
Yeah, because I ran into this. I was playing a Pioneer Masters draft, and I got a Sijiri, whatever the white one that gives you
Step up.
protection from. Yeah,
Yeah.
it it gives you protection from target creature gets protection from a color of your choice or whatever. Um, and I was stuck at like, does am I going to use this to save my spells more often, or am I going to use this as a white tap land that comes into play once in a while? And I think I ultimately just left it as a spell more because I had some heroic creatures and I was like, oh, this could come in handy. But that's just such a challenging, like when you're doing deck construction, that becomes a very weird stopping point that I did not expect. That I'm like, oh, I don't know how to I've just stopped playing MDFCs for the most part because I don't want to deal with trying to figure out the numbers and how that goes.
Yeah, like go with half in limited, and you're on a good path.
Okay, and while we're on that topic, here's a question that I've never been able to figure out, and I haven't read an article you've done about that. In formats like cons or other 3-color drafts, where like I know how to split my lands for a 2-color draft, but when you are drafting 3 colors, how it, what is the optimal split for a 3-color mana base? Or how do you look at the cards you've drafted and then build a mana base out of that?
So I would often look at the amount of total number of sources of each color in your mana base.
Mm,
And then, for example, for my main colors, I would ideally like 9 sources. 8 might also be sufficient. For my splash colors, well, at least 3, ideally 4. And if you don't have any double lands or additional mana fixers,
mm,
you should generally just limit yourself to 2 colors in like a
well, yeah.
9 and 8 mana base.
Hmm.
That's typically way better than going like 7-7-3. If you do have a couple of dual lands, then like if you have 3 dual lands or something, then add the number of basic lands such that you get to say 8 or 9 for your main colors and like 3 or 4 for your splash colors.
Yeah, because like I run into this a lot in limited, where even in a normal 2-color set, I'll be drafting and I get a bomb that's like a multicolored bomb for one of my colors, but it's my off color, right? So I'm playing red and black, and I get a red white like mythic or whatever it is, and I might have like one red white land in there uh, that I just drafted. Do I add extra planes? Like, how many planes do I need to splash with creature? And that's one of those math things that like Arena does a lot of land math for you, and I think that's really actually bad for Magic because it means we're not learning how to do this. But like,
Yeah, I think we may also not be learning the well, for one, how bad splashing can be on your mana base, and also even like how bad your limited two color mana bases typically are, especially when you compare it to what we know in formats like standard or modern. Limited mana bases suck.
Yeah, they
Uh,
do.
and especially after I wrote my I guess famous articles on like how many colored sources you need
Yeah.
to consistently cast your spells, which were largely based on like hypergeometric probabilities.
Yeah.
It reinforced for me the importance of having good mana in limited as well. And I still regularly first pick an Evolving Wilds or
Jeez.
like a mana fixer like that. I value those very highly, even in two color decks.
That's that. Would you play an Evolving Wild in a 2-color deck?
Yeah, and I pick it very highly.
That's crazy. I mean, I will play an Evolving Wild, but like, it feels to me like the tempo loss of having that land come into play tapped or whatever later is that's something I have a hard time getting over. But I'm obviously not going to tell you how to do this.
Well, many constructed decks also run tapped lands to make sure that they have enough colored sources.
Yeah,
and it also comes with a potential tempo loss in those formats. But to have a good balance, you
I
still
guess the
need some
first time
fixing
you
limited.
like when you add a bunch of off-color basics into your deck to play the splash, and you've got like 1 or 2 splash cards, and you're looking at a handful of red and black cards and 3 planes, you hate your life.
Sure. And ultimately, if you have like let's say 3 tap lands in limited, or maybe 5 in 60 card formats, or I don't know, up to like 8,
Yeah,
perhaps 9 tap lands in commander decks, that's fine. You can typically
Commander
find
is different. You
a
can
time
have as many tap
to
lands as
play
you
them.
want. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, give our mana bases require us to play some number of tap lands, and I would much rather play comes into play tap dual land than friggin' Tarnished Citadel or whatever that like bolts you every time you tap it for a color. It's crazy. Like, CDH players will do things like play the world's worst 5-color land just because they come into play untapped. And I'm like, well, you're bolting yourself every time. Yeah, but I can play my dockside. I'm like, whatever you want, buddy. You're not playing the same game I am. But it's like, I don't know. I just think of it as such an interesting way to like build, because like I build emotionally. I build from like the commander or from whatever pet card I want to build around. But I look at standard decks and modern decks, and I like to play a lot of 60 card formats. And I'm always just like looking at it in such a Ben Starkian kind of way, where the top half of the card doesn't matter. It's just give me the mana cost, give me a curve, and give me like the numbers. But it feels like, how are we playing the same game? It's so weird sometimes.
Well, it is actually awesome that Magic can be so many things to many different people. Indeed, when I look at the cards, I also largely look at the numbers and try to abstract it in a certain way. Likewise, when I start building for completely new constructed formats, I often start with the mana bases, because those actually dictate what is possible, and whether you can build, let's say, a 2-color aggro deck.
Can you actually go into
not.
that a little more? That's the question I was going to ask you. Is like, how do you approach a brand new constructed format, or a brand new, like they've unbanned a bunch of cards or whatever it is? Like, what do you mean by you start with the mana base?
Well, I mean, this largely applies for, I guess, what standard used to be, where the mana bases were rather imperfect. Where, for example, if you have only one land that can tap for both colors of mana on turn 1, like a pain land or fast land,
Yeah.
or something, then building 2-color aggro decks can get a little tough, because it will be difficult to find the required mana sources, untapped mana sources on turn 1 for all of your colors. If you have more of those lands, then suddenly like multicolor aggro strategies become viable. Conversely, if there are lots of let's say 3-color fixing lands, then building 3-color decks or decks with even more colors becomes viable. And yeah, in that sense, the availability of mana fixing in standard often indicated what was actually possible. I'll say that nowadays, especially as the format has grown, you can expect that like all of these types of strategies are viable, and you can make aggro, mid-range, control with like any number of colors reasonably well, because there are a lot of dual lands to choose from. But it certainly did not. It certainly was not always that way, especially in like way back in the days in like more constructed tournaments. Sometimes there were just like literally 0 dual lands, and you would win the Pro Tour with like all basic lands.
That's so weird to think about now.
Yeah, the Magic we have nowadays is certainly certainly better.
Sometimes people talk nostalgically about, oh man, I loved Invasion Standard or whatever, and you go back and they're playing like, all the depletion lands or whatever garbage. It's like, how did you play Magic at all?
Yeah, we've come a long way in terms of designs of manabases.
I mean, I don't
for
think
sure.
we'll
I mean, they overshot it like a little bit in the beginning with the original dual lands like Tundra and Taiga and so on. But then, for many years after, the options were really, really bad. I think we're now finally in the sweet spot.
Well, I mean, I think the farthest they overcompensated was during like Khans of Tarkir standard with Khans of Tarkir Theros standard or whatever, where we had like fetch lands and tri lands and all this, just like infinite mana of every color, and it's like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah, back then standard was like a 4-color, 5-color.
Oh yeah, that was so cool.
Which is indeed also an example of starting with looking at the mana bases first. Back then, indeed, we had like fetch lands and dual lands in standard, and then it means that you can easily build your 4-color good stuff decks, which is which definitely changes things.
Ah, yes, the good old days of playing freaking Siege Rhinos and Whip of Erebos and everything like that. I love.
I mean, we're going back to Tarkir this year, so maybe
excited.
Siege Rhino will make a return.
Oh god, dude, I love Siege Rhino.
It would probably be fine for 2025 standard.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that card it costs 3 colors and it's a 4. It's fine. It's not Shieldred. It's fine. Shieldred is such a stupid card. God, I hate that card. But I don't know. I've been enjoying Standard a lot lately. I've been playing a lot of different decks. Yesterday, I played against a deck for the first time that was playing green-white, and it had all of the big mythic endurances or whatever from the big overlords from Duskmourn, and it would play them for their ability, and then immediately flicker it and bring it back as a creature. And I'm like, oh, that is going to destroy all my little mice and my monastery swift spirits. I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, there's definitely some sweet synergies. If you're playing standard, I have a challenge for you. If you like,
please.
Like because like I know you also have a very big love for the Commander format, where we have a singleton restriction.
Yeah,
go to standard tournaments and try to do well with a singleton deck.
A singleton standard deck.
Yes, I believe this might actually be reasonably possible, especially given that standard is growing into like a bigger and bigger
600 card format or whatever.
I mean, there's going to be like many thousands of cards legal in.
Oh my god!
In a bit,
it's going to be like old extended was.
Yeah, sort of. Because I've always enjoyed playing singleton decks. It just creates like a fresh mix of cards every game, like more unpredictability and then adaptability and variance that you have to deal with. And I'm confident that with a properly built singleton deck, it can actually hold its own at like the competitive level.
I think that would be really fun.
I've tried it twice at the Pro Tour and actually had reasonable results with it. So
at the Pro Tour,
yeah, it was. I mean The first time was like after my induction into the Hall of Fame, where like my Pro Tour invites were secure. So I
Okay,
just
there we
decided
go.
to set myself like a unique challenge. Was at the extended portion of the 2009 Magic World Championships,
Oh,
and
jeez,
I brought an Azurius control deck with like all like literally all singletons.
that's insane.
And just every game felt fresh, always new and unexpected card interactions. Opponents were never able to predict what would be next, and it just reminded me of why I loved Magic, which is just this thrill of
Yes,
discovery and like
yes.
a difference every time. And you can build decks in probably like similar ways in Commander.
Oh,
So
100%.
rather
That's how
than
I build all my decks.
well, yeah, no,
Like,
but like you just set like a specific role,
oh yeah.
four card draw spells, and then rather than picking like four copies of the best one, you just choose four different ones
I
with
should
like
tell you some of the
comparable
garbage
functionality.
decks that I build, my friend. like, so for instance, one of my favorite decks right now is a deck that uses Nira, who is a wild mage from Baldur's Gate that came out. And you might not be familiar because she's commander only card, but effectively what it says is when you play a spell, well, when you cast a spell, you can choose to put it on the bottom of your deck and flip over the top until you hit a non-land card and then cast that one for free. And so I have a whole bunch of like
That's sweet.
all of these random one mana cantrips from like every garbage cantrip that's ever been printed, and then just a bunch of things like omniscience or like ancient silver dragon or whatever. Just like play my ponder and flip it into something like epic, and it's random and different every time. And that's why one of the reasons why like I've been known for being so against high powered commander, for instance, because a lot of those times they'll take the deck, they have like one combo in there that's going to win the game. And like, Thassa's Oracle and whatever the ad nauseum or whatever it is. And like everything else is a tutor that'll get them their cards. And I'm like, I'm not playing Commander to just get the same two damn cards every time. I'm playing because there's 100 cards in the deck, and I want to see all 100 of them do weird things. Like, I love to build decks based on combinatorics. On like, if these two cards sit down together, something bizarre is going to happen. And I want to have as many different kind of like incompatibilities as possible just to see the weird like results that come out. Or like,
Exactly.
yeah, or like my decks are based on like weird, very strong thematic restrictions. Like I built a deck with Kadira, who is also from Baldur's Gate, who basically says if you have a token in play and you attack with her, you get that many rabbit tokens. And so like she becomes this very exponentially large. Like I've had a table with 300 to 800 rabbits on it. But I make it to, and they're like, oh, you're just going to win by attacking me with rabbits. I'm like, no, my rabbits do not attack. They all have exalted from different triggers. And Kadira goes in solo wearing like all this equipment. And they're like, you could win. I'm like, yeah, but it wouldn't be the point of the deck where she's protecting all of her friends and they're cheering her on. And I love to do that to myself. I love to give myself very bizarre or interesting restrictions that force me to use weird cards. Like I want to play. I mean, I believe that Magic has 25,000 cards, and we should be able to play all of them in weird ways. We shouldn't have to. It sucks so much when you're just playing a game and it's just always the best cards, always the top tier card, always a meta deck that you can get offline. And I'm like, look, I love playing modern and standard and stuff too, but I want to explore. I mean, you know what? My favorite way to play is Boxing League Sealed, which is you take a box of Magic cards and you build a commander deck out of just the things in the box. It forces
Mhm.
you to use all the synergies that are built in the set with all of the set mechanics and everything, and also forces you to use all these cards that are just limited crap, like draft trash that people talk about. And it's like, well, look, I need to have 99 cards in this deck. I'm going to have to use that 2-1 for 2 that just sits there and has a raid effect on it because I need to. It's in my colors, and that way you really get to enjoy and explore the vast depth of everything in Magic. Like my favorite format used to be block constructed, and that's not a thing anymore because we don't have blocks. But
Yeah.
like being able to like play block constructed meant that you get to really delve into the mechanics of a set, and I loved doing that. So having a sealed commander deck do that is the next best thing, I think.
Yeah, and this is just how you can find the joy in deck
Exactly.
building and gameplay. even more by setting yourself those unique challenges.
Oh yeah.
I will say that when it came to like your example of someone playing a combo deck with like all tutors, that goes a bit against the spirit of Commander.
Yeah.
But I do remember when I played these Singleton decks at Pro Tours, I had some tutors in there, especially like gifts ungiven, like resolving a
Oh
gifts ungiven,
yeah.
and that was legal. That was just so satisfying.
Well, yeah, that's different, man.
As
You're trying to
just
win
have
there.
well, yeah, you just have so many like unique and different options. Now that might not be a possibility in standard, but I do challenge you to like bring this spirit of deck building and set like a fun challenge for yourself, also for anyone listening,
Yeah, I think that would be super
because
fun.
uh, I think so far no one has actually made the top 8 of a pro tour or a big event with a deck featuring no duplicates. And I mean, I've also like taken a mono-red Singleton deck, was in like 2012, to a pro tour where I went like 5-5 in modern.
Jeez.
If you build it like in a good way, it can absolutely hold its own, and it's
Have you ever
just
played Canadian
so much
Highlander?
more fun that way. Um, I I have not played it specifically.
I think you'd really like it.
I know about the format. There's only so many formats
That's true.
I can track, because I'm already like keeping track of like standard and pioneer and modern and
I love your weekly
limited
articles, man.
and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I were just playing Magic for fun, I think Canadian Highlander would be awesome to build for.
Singleton Vintage, man, it is the most fun because you can do things like you
Yeah.
can build basic cube decks, and like cubing is one of my favorite ways to play.
I mean, many vintage decks are already kind of Singleton.
Well, yeah, I
So
mean
many
because of all
distinctive
the
cards.
restrictions, yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's so much fun, and it's weird because like I love playing combo decks in 60 card formats. Like I love play like in Kaldheim Standard there was the runes deck that you could go through and go infinite with all these runes and make a whole mess of things. That was like one of my favorite standard decks of all time, and like my modern deck is combo elves, so it's like I it's not good, but I love it, and I don't care. I'm always gonna play elves.
It's probably fine. Might have gotten better now with Green Sun's Zenith.
Yeah,
there.
probably. But like, as long as Bowmasters exist, it's not fine.
Sure.
God, I swear to God, Magic had printed so many cards that just say, take your favorite decks and take them apart. Like stupid Fury, man. I know it's banned now, but God, there's nothing worse for an elf player than somebody saying Fury. I'm like, stupid.
Yeah, it probably was a good ban for that reason. Elf decks have not really come to dominate modern afterwards.
No,
but these are the types of diverse strategies that we do like to see.
What is your favorite way to play?
So I don't play all that much Magic
We
anymore,
don't get to
because
play when we're content guys.
because I generally like do coverage at
Okay, well, what's your favorite
other than
format to
playing them.
cover?
But no, I was still
Okay.
gonna finish the answer. I do love playing the arena opens. Those are kind of my jam. So whenever I have a free weekend and can just play some limited, I generally like playing limited a lot. Perhaps for like similar reasons, that like every game is different for
Yeah.
sure. And there's always new things to discover. Playing a new draft format is awesome, and yeah, perhaps the arena opens are what I play the most nowadays, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah. I love draft. I mean, I think limited is my favorite way to play because it's a puzzle that's new every time, and you have to use this small pool of cards, and you don't get to like it cuts a lot of like I have a lot of problems with analysis paralysis and being like when I'm trying to build a commander deck, I got a pile of 350 cards in front of me, and I have to get it down to 60 so that I can actually build a deck out of it. But like when you're playing limited, this 45 or whatever is what you've got. Good luck, and that's just such a great time. It's freeing.
And But that's what I play largely now. I would say when I was playing and competing at the Pro Tour still, like let's say 10 years ago, I particularly loved Modern, because
Mm.
then I could just bring my trusty Affinity deck all the time. I really enjoyed playing that particular deck because it both brought back some good memories and nostalgia for the original Mirrodin block.
Hmm.
But I also really loved the type of gameplay with like the Arcbound Ravager combat math. You have
Yeah.
to think a couple turns ahead and like add up the numbers and like optimize the sequencing. That sort of
Yeah.
magic is what I really enjoy. I am not sure if, with the recent unbanning of Mox Opal, such a strategy would still be competitively viable in 2025 modern. Maybe you have to play some other cards rather
Yeah, but
than
you're still going to
Arcbound
try.
Ravager and Cranial Plating. But yes, I if I were playing like large modern tournaments, I would surely give it a try
Do you ever
because
miss that?
it's fun. Um, A little bit, but to be fair, I enjoy running the numbers on meta games and like analyzing win rates and engaging with Magic in that fashion even more nowadays.
What do you think
So
about the rise of 17 lands?
I think it is a very useful website that can give all kinds of handy insights, also allowing you to draw up tier lists and like just a bunch of handy things for limited players. It also gives all kinds of data on win rates of
Yeah.
limited cards, which while useful, I think you have to be quite careful in interpreting it,
Yeah.
because if a card has a high win rate, that does not necessarily mean that you have to first pick it, um, because, well, for
Exactly.
example, cards that go rather late, that are just freely picked by people as like an eighth pick, go into decks where those people use their first pick on like a bomb, which then influences the win rate of the card that was picked as an eighth pick, that was like heavily underrated.
Mm.
And alternatively, a card might be very good in like only a certain archetype, which is very strong, but kind of weak in other archetypes. Um,
Mm.
and like a bunch of those aspects are not like easy to infer from just the raw data.
Yeah.
So I have if I were preparing for a pro tour, I would not put much weight into all the 17 lands
Mm.
data, or if I did, I would spend a lot of time in making sure that you derive the right insights and interpretations from the data,
Yeah.
which may involve additional analysis.
That's exactly kind of, I mean, that's more or less where I've landed with that, which is that they give you so much interesting raw data, but people do not have the tools with which to understand what that data is, because we're not all data scientists, or people aren't really thinking of things like correlation, like, oh hey, this red green deck is, and this red green like uncommon has got a win rate of 80%, without thinking about the fact that they've built an insane red green deck around it or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's not in a vacuum. It's not like you have an existing deck and then add this card.
Right. Like if you
Like
draft
like you.
a high win rate like multicolored card, and then draft a high win rate monocolored card that's in a different color than those two, you're not going to win. You're just going to have
Also,
two
yeah,
very good cards that are just not doing anything with each other.
yeah, and you're giving up a pick. So it always changes things, making it a bit tricky.
I think it would be
But
really interesting to have you and Sirkovitz sit and talk about data science sometime.
Sirkovich is great, and he is also able to explain some of these nuances in the data. He understands it very well. that you have to take into account. But still, if you add like if you take the additional step of like really looking at what all the numbers mean, as for example Sirkovic would do, then you can derive so many incredible insights from it. And yeah, I mean, having that treasure trove of data, I love it, but be careful.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're not all going to be very good at hypergeometric calculations the way some of us in this chat are. I don't know. I think I only use it at like the very end of a format, because otherwise I think that it's too easy to be swayed by the numbers without actually doing the work to understand why this works. And then you just lose. I would rather look and use the heuristics that I've developed to actually understand how to play limited, so I can actually try to win. But because like, man, there's sometimes having more data makes you not trust your own skills, because you're like, oh, well, the data is telling me something different than what I know, but your skills are the things that got you to where you are, and you know how to play. So you have to trust your instinct at some point,
Yeah,
until you understand how to read data.
I mean, you also need to draft a mana curve. You need to focus on synergies, and win rate data of cards can give you some ideas, but it does not mean that those limited fundamentals don't apply anymore.
Yeah. So, yikes! I just dropped some dice, and they clattered all over the place.
Well, they're supposed to be rolled.
Yeah, I mean that is the truth. My desk is covered in so much Magic and D&D crap. It is not even funny.
I can relate.
Gosh, so you've been working a lot of Pro Tours, and since actually for quite some time you've been working in like the analysis desk and on like working behind the scenes at like the Pro Tours and stuff like that. And can you like explain a little bit what you do there? Because I know I see you with an iPad basically standing behind the people.
So currently for Pro Tours, I often help with the metagame breakdown, writing various articles, doing some behind the scenes work to deliver all the relevant data to the broadcast in the right form. But when you talk about the iPad, like for example at MagicCon Barcelona, I was standing behind the players in the main feature match, where I then track the cards in hand so that those are displayed properly on screen, which seemed pretty easy when it was first explained to it. But it was actually kind of a challenge to get it right, because very often players just draw cards, set it down immediately. And then I am looking, from an angle over their shoulder, where you have to like spot a card from like 1/10 of its image for like 1/10 of a second, and it gets even like especially difficult. Like, ooh, this was like a Japanese alternate art card. Wait, was that like a Dark Slick Shores or an Underground River? Because all those dual lands look the exact same.
Yeah.
And it gets even tougher when players are resolving, I don't know, like an Atraxa or Treasure Cruise, and I'm like trying to keep up. But it's a fun challenge. And
I remember,
and I get a front side seat at a feature match table.
That's the coolest part. You get to watch the best Magic players play the best Magic. I don't know. I remember at GP Oakland many years ago, right after Zendikar, Battle for Zendikar had come out with the brand new full art in what the hell did they call it? Expedition Lands. The full art Expedition Lands, and we were playing in a very darkened hall, and I was listening to commentary, and you could hear Marshall struggling, trying to figure out what the hell dual lands these guys were playing, because everybody's playing with these fancy expeditions, and they all look the same, and the lighting is reflecting wrong, and they're all playing 4-color cards or decks or whatever. So you're like, I don't know what's going on. Like, is that a windswept heath, or is that a blood fire? Who knows?
I absolutely know what he's talking about, especially when we have so many more different different art and frames and reprints of cards. It can become more and more difficult to keep track of everything. But like in fact, the day before the Pro Tour, I I might often use sort of a flashcards tool to
Mhm.
challenge myself and like familiarize myself with all the different versions of say the cards in the most recent sets.
That's a
Because
great idea, especially for like limited. But oh man, do you ever like? So it's probably good then that you find a way to still connect with Magic if you don't want to play at like the highest level now. Especially we're older; it's hard to just travel every weekend to GPs, even if they don't exist anymore. Uh,
yeah, for sure. It's actually why I got involved with coverage in the first place already, like over 10 years
yeah,
ago. I didn't really have the competitive fire to keep playing like all the tournaments and trying to keep up that way, but I definitely missed the whole vibe of the events and all the friends I've met over the years. So I looked if there was like a spot on coverage teams available, and ultimately rolled into it that way. Like my initial hope, I remember, was that maybe I have like lots of time in between rounds to
to talk
chat
to
with
people.
people and talk with people. Turns out it was not really like that. Like especially at like the old European
This is
Grand
why
Prix.
whenever I go to a Magic Con, I go like first thing in the morning to the coverage area to say hi to all you guys because
Yeah.
I know that there's no chance it's going to happen at all the rest of the show.
Yeah, it is just like very long. I know, like 14-hour days where you start
Yeah.
early. The tournament keeps going. You end late, and then I still run the numbers on win rates and whatever I do to like provide the
Yeah.
casters with some
Oh god, you must be sitting there with your
some
laptop
insights.
just calculating all day.
Well, I set up some tools to make it easier, but yeah. To be fair, when I attend these Magic Cons nowadays, I often don't have much time to explore the
Yeah.
convention. Maybe an hour or so, and it is like an awesome experience. But the days can also be be pretty
Yeah.
long when you cover
It's
such
funny
such
cuz
events. But I love it. I really enjoy being able to engage with Magic
that's awesome.
in this way nowadays.
It's funny because I remember the first time I ever met you was in MagicCon Philadelphia. I had come over to the Pro Tour area to come and say hi to people. And I was like, what do you think about all this? And you had just come back from watching, I think, Command Zone Live or something like that. And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it turns out people don't chant my name at the Pro Tour.
Yeah, it was quite a difference. That was the first time that I saw the Command Zone live.
It's
No,
insane.
that was actually the first time that we actually had a Magic Con. But
Yeah.
yeah, how the crowd was going absolutely wild, and like everyone was making a massive show out of it. It was a lot of fun, but also quite different from
It's
what we
not the
were
magic
used
you
to
know.
at the Pro Tour, where you try to be quiet and like deep in thought and
It's very
like
library like.
engaged. Yeah, exactly. Which which also enables for very deep strategy and intense moments and excitement, but in a a completely different way than at the Command Zone live.
I
And
just
and I love that Magic can be played in so many
yeah.
different fashions.
I just like that we can live side by side again and that
Mhm.
you can have the crazy excitement of like a Command Zone and the Pro Tour with like the hyper focus. Although, I mean, nowadays with like Simon Nielsen's having a good time and he's smiling and laughing. So it's possible to be happy. Like, I remember when Reed was like, when he won his Pro Tour, and I just talked to him afterwards and I was like, dude, you're sitting on camera and you're just like, you just literally won, you've made your life goal and you're sitting there silently and staring. And he's like, yeah, I didn't know what to do. So I started unsideboarding my deck. And I'm like, celebrate, man. You won. But
Yeah,
obviously,
I mean, it is also a completely understandable thing
yeah.
for me. Um, but yeah,
Because you're in
when you
focus
see,
mode for so long and then
yes,
you don't know how to turn that off and come back to like, oh my God, this the cool thing just happened.
yeah, and you have to be also careful while playing the finals not to let your emotions show too much, because if you do, then suddenly your opponent will well, okay, he top decked the perfect card, or oh, I'm sure he has nothing. I can go for it.
Remember there was a
And
one
like
guy with
having a bit of a poker face can matter in those high level Magic matches,
that's why I
and then
don't play high level
switching
Magic.
over can take a while.
Remember there was that one kid from China or Taiwan who was in his first Pro Tour top 8, and he was doing so well and pulled the card and sequenced his thing wrong and lost in like the third round or second round. I don't remember what Pro Tour it was, but he made like a colossal misplay with the win in hand just because he was so excited to have the win in hand. And it's like, oh, that one always hurts when you see like somebody's like really close to winning and they just whiff it because of just inexperience or whatever. But I don't know. I think
it's all part of it.
Yeah, that's just a game.
I will say that when I look at players like Simon Nielsen or Javier Dominguez, who have been absolutely crushing the major Magic tournaments recently, they provide like an awesome mix of both extremely skilled gameplay, but also showing their emotions right after, and sharing the joy of what it means for them. Because for many players, they have dedicated so much of their lives and time and effort towards becoming so good at the game, and then when it pays off with a big trophy, it is awesome to see the joy that comes from that.
Have you ever had the urge to go back and try to compete?
I have considered it, but for one, I don't think I would be playing at the highest levels anymore, and I actually get a little frustrated when I see myself playing and see myself making like a bunch of mistakes all over the place, when I know that I could be doing better. Doing it like halfway doesn't feel as satisfying for me. And also, as I mentioned, I really enjoy all the metagame analysis, crunching the numbers.
I mean, I saw you, didn't you?
Just having more certainty about a role than playing a PT and just hoping to do well.
But I mean, didn't you just go win the Lorcana Worlds or whatever?
Well, I'm qualified for the World Championship, which is at some point later this year. When like the very first Lorcana challenge, right? The new Disney card game happened. Essentially, the equivalent of a Grand Prix or Spotlight Series. I competed and didn't expect to do well, but suddenly I didn't stop losing and ultimately won it. That game is actually very, very similar to Magic. So in a sense, I had been already preparing for that for many decades, because like the skills I got in Magic,
they all came back.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because I have a hard time getting past the theming of that, but I sense that like you can just look at like the raw numbers and be like, oh, I understand how these probabilities work. I know how to make a deck that will get the things I need to win the game. And I just it felt like when you posted like, hey, I accidentally won the championship. And I was like, that's amazing. Okay, that's cool. Yep. It was so fun. I was like, wow, dude, it felt like you just joined it as a lark and then won. And that rules.
Yeah, sort of. When I looked at the recent European championship, I also saw a lot of familiar names. Like there was Guillaume Wofotapa, another Magic Hall of Famer.
Right.
There was Grzegorz Kowalski, like second place at the Magic World Championship a couple of years ago.
He's so good.
There was like Samuele Estrati, like a Pro Tour champion. Like so many players.
Grinder's gonna grind, man.
I would say that whenever any new card game comes out, it is quite likely that the experienced Magic players will have an edge, because it's just the way of thinking about game fundamentals that will always translate.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's so cool. I don't know, but like I was reading your analysis earlier today of like the cards that came out in 24 and how like you said something like 12 to 13% of all Magic cards ever showed up last year.
Yes.
Is that ridiculous or is that like
Well,
what do you
it's
count as a card object, by the way?
so that was based on Scryfall's definitions. This just gave me a nice excuse to do some fun mathematical analysis tangential to Magic. I think basically any new sort of art or new frame or new reprint of a card qualifies as a new card object. Different languages don't count in that. So I think in what was it last year? Maybe there were like 10 different arcane signet card objects released. Just in like different
One in every
products
precon, right? So.
or different arts. Maybe it was even more than that. But yeah, like I ran the numbers and I saw that like over 12,000 card objects were released in 2024, and this was indeed like 12.5% of like all the ones released in Magic's like over 30-year history.
That's insane.
So if you have felt some feeling of like product fatigue with all the new releases, that it can be exhausting to keep up, the data does support that. And moreover, it's not just the number of or the speed of new set releases, but we also spent just a whole lot of time reading because the year 2024 was actually the wordiest in Magic history.
That's so, I mean, even more than Strixhaven.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Like if I again ran the numbers and found that like new 2024 cards had more than 30 words per average in their Oracle text, which was like the highest all time, even excluding reminder text and like regardless of how we count double-faced cards. So there's just a lot of reading. If you've done drafts and felt like I don't have enough time to like even like understand what is in this booster in the time you have to make your choices. That is a thing. And I do believe that R&D is aware that cards are a bit on the high end for word count. And I hope that it's not going to keep increasing, because to me, like especially when I compare it to the Magic that I fell in love with 25 years ago or so, all these wordy cards are not necessary for strategic depth and are also not particularly elegant, and
they're not adding anything.
Well, I mean, they're adding new and different options, but I just like it when the complexity of a game arises more from the rules than from like the complexity of
last year
of its pieces.
Last year I spent a lot of time playing Chandelar again, which I know I used to watch your videos of you like speedrunning Chandelar or whatever.
Yep.
And that's super fun to watch, especially Contract from Below, one of the greatest cards of all, the greatest card of all time.
A little unbalanced, yeah.
Utterly broken. But like, I'm playing Chandelar and then playing Magic Foundations, and I was like, oh, you know what? It turns out a 2/1 flyer for 3 or whatever is great, and sometimes you just want like, oh, this tramples, oh, this flies, oh, I win, okay, great, look, we're good. It reminds me of like the joy of playing more chill Magic, you know. And it's like
where it was your Sarah Angels versus your lightning bolts and
exactly, and Shivan Dragons and Mahmoudis and. Like, it's funny because like when you play Chandelar, you realize how strong the underlying engine of Magic is, that you can have a great time even though all the cards are complete and utter crap. Like Uthran Troll is not winning any awards anytime soon.
Yeah, especially creatures have gotten way better than back in the days.
Did you see the card that Gavin made for you at the Unknown event in Amsterdam?
Ooh,
the Karsten Enchanted.
Yes,
Yeah,
but I don't
for
recall
those of you at
what
home, I
what
will
it
read
did.
it to you.
Let me look it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a two blue green 4/4 for a legendary creature enchantment creature elemental, and it's got 3 blue tap. Sack another creature. Search your library for up to 4 cards that don't share a mana value, power, toughness, or card type with each other. Target opponent chooses 2 of those, and you put the chosen card into the graveyard and the rest in your hand. So it's basically a gifts ungiven with more restrictions.
Yes,
Mm.
I remember seeing that, and I really
That,
loved it because it was perfect for me because Gibson Given is basically my favorite card of all time. I love the whole like
the
how it
puzzle of it.
how it kind of embeds like a combinatorial problem within an extensive form game. It is kind of a mathematical problem
Yeah.
in one card where you can just spend forever analyzing and then thinking about all the possibilities. And there's just a sweet twist on it. I loved it.
You should make a commander deck based on this guy. That would be super fun. A blue
Can
green gifts ungiven style deck.
can you play these cards in
Commander's a
Commander?
casual format. Nobody's going to stop you.
Okay.
And you're Frank Karsten. If you say, I'm going to play a deck based on me, nobody is going to stop you.
Yeah, I guess that is what Rule Zero is
Yeah,
for.
like
Yeah.
this is the fight I've been fighting for a long time. I'm like, dude, play the card exists. Nobody's going to stop you from playing it. He made me a card called the Keeper of Favorite Cards, and I play it because it rules. Because why wouldn't I want to play the card based on me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna look into that.
yeah, because that would be hella fun, man.
Like I don't have like even though I love Singleton, I generally don't play much Commander because like for all my weekly articles for Wizard and the like, I always keep track
Yeah,
of
you
like
have too many things to do.
all the constructed formats. Yeah, and I even added like a different game last year, and
Yeah, exactly.
honestly, it was all a bit much. That's something that we as content creators maybe should sometimes be careful to look at
Yeah.
to
Oh,
not
dude, I
do
burned out
more
hard,
than
man.
you can chew on.
I
You
burnt
did?
out way too hard because like I was giving every ounce of my energy to helping run Commander and it was a volunteer effort,
Hmm.
and I was treating it like a full-time job, and I was just getting so much heat on the internet and stuff, and it burnt me out very hard. And that's why like I was planning on leaving the leadership this year anyways, and then of course everything blew up and it
Hmm.
got really
Hmm.
bad. But yeah, like sometimes you got to stop and be like, wait, what do I enjoy about this? Let me remember and celebrate that and do it in a way that's healthy, that doesn't have demands on me. But when like you're a content creator and you're like, this is my job, now it's just like, oh, where do I run to when I need to relax? That's why I left the video games industry, because I'm like, if I'm working on games 14, 15 hours a day, and then I go home and I want to relax, turning on PlayStation is not going to do it for me, right? Like it's something I don't have a place
Yep.
to relax, and I'm like, this sucks. I hate it.
Yeah,
Um,
taking a step back is often very wise, and I'm sure that if you want to come back in a similar role
oh yeah, sure,
in
but
perhaps a a different way that doesn't tax you as much, uh, there will always be
yeah,
possibilities
it's
for
about
that.
learning the boundaries and learning. And one
Yeah,
thing Magic players are not good at,
and
and
finding a
content creators are
balance.
not good at, is learning healthy boundaries
Hmm.
for ourselves. Like we
Yep.
don't know how to not grind all the time.
Yeah, and also what you said, like coming back home and then trying to relax with the
Yeah,
game. It feels different when that is all you do for your work.
yeah,
Like when I would fire up, let's say, a Magic Arena and play a whole bunch of standard,
hmm,
it doesn't necessarily feel all that relaxing. I mean,
no,
it's fun, but yeah, you need to do something else to kind of relax
yeah. And then
sometimes.
there's a voice in the back of your head like, you could be filming this, and it's like, oh god damn it, no, let me just play and have fun.
Yep.
That's why I don't do
Yeah,
any arena
these
content
are
ever.
absolutely pitfalls to that you might fall into, that you need to be careful with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially like I'm sitting there and I remember I was playing a spell table game with a bunch of other creators, and we were just hanging out, and this is not for any content or anything, but like at the end we're like, oh man, should we have been recording this? It's like, no, we can just have this for us. It's
Yes.
okay for us to be the only audience of this. It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard. But before we go, though, since this has been an absolutely fantastic conversation, I'm so grateful that you were able to join me. Uh, you mentioned in the pregame notes that you also play Civilization, which is my all-time favorite game. And if anybody ever asked me to like make Civ content instead of Magic content, I would drop Magic like a heartbeat and just turn it into like in a heartbeat and just start doing Civ stuff all the time. And Civ must be the like perfect game for you with all the yield calculations and learning how to stack your numbers and your bonuses and your eurekas and everything.
For sure. When I play it, and it's also a game that I like quite a bit and have played for many years. It is a way for me to relax and strategize.
Yeah.
Yet when I do play it, I'm often building like a spreadsheet at the same time to plan several turns ahead. Indeed, to hit all those inspirations and eurekas right in time. And
Oh my God.
I can easily sit behind my computer screen, just planning and thinking for like an hour-long turn. So obviously, I only play single player, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
And like on the highest
Multiplayer is not as
levels, challenging myself. And yeah, besides the strategy, like I also enjoy the history, the world that we live in. But in general, when I can think and strategize and analyze stuff related to games, I'm at my happiest.
That's awesome, man.
We should play Civilization together at some point. Maybe when 7 comes out.
Oh yeah, that would be so cool. I was talking to Saffron Olive about that as well because he's also a big Civ fan, and I was like, it's like a lot of my friends are like, we should all play Civ together, but we realized that wait, Civ is our favorite. I don't want to play with anybody else game. I just want to sit and make my numbers get really large and I love to watch, like lately I've been watching the videos of Potato McWhiskey, who is a Civ streamer on YouTube. And I've been learning a lot. I've been playing Civ since 1993 or something, since Civ 1 came out. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, I've never thought of doing these, strategies are in this order. And suddenly I've been playing like a lot of Civ since like the American election happened, because it's my happy place where there's no politics, just me wrecking the world.
But I can understand that, yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I am so excited for Civ 7. And we should definitely get together and jam. Even if we do like network shared single player, that would be fun. Or cooperative. Like if we could play Civ 6 co-op against the enemy, that would be fun.
I'm sure there will be some possibilities. I haven't really looked into it.
I don't know either. Civ 7 looks cool though, so we'll see. But anyways, my friend, thank you so much for joining me today. If folks wanted to find you or the stuff you've written or anything, where could they go?
Thanks for having me. This was a blast. You can find me on Twitter at Karsten_Frank. You can also check out my weekly metagame mentor articles for Wizards of the Coast on magic.gg.
I love those.
And I also recently joined Blue Sky at frankkarsten.bsky.social.
Yeah. It seems like everybody has moved over to Blue Sky, which is probably for the best, honestly. But as always, my friends, you can find me at Twitter at GearPrettyGears or Blue Sky at Shivam Bhatt. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold or at YouTube every Tuesday, thanks to my editor, Dan. You can also hear me on Shivam and Wheeler Love Magic, where I sit with Ben Wheeler and we take a set and talk about it for like 2 to 4 hours about like every cool card in the set. Or on the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast, where I sit and talk about the Dragonlance novels. Or whatever the next 2 podcasts or something that I'm planning on building this year because I've got nothing better to do with my time. I just love doing podcasts, man. I wish I could if I can turn this into a full-time career, I'm going to be the happiest man in the world. But in the meantime, though, as always, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.